This is the representation of the kind of quality of speakers that we have here at West Hawaii Forum. And we put these monthly forums on to provide as much civic involvement and education on issues that are important to you, the community. We are one island. We are one community.
Tonight we have our Honorable Mayor Harry Kim and members of his cabinet. They will be discussing our county budget. We also have, I think, 5 of our council members who are here tonight. This is not a council meeting, but I do want to acknowledge them. Councilman Tim Richards here, Councilwoman Karen Eoff, Councilwoman Rebecca Villegas. I thought I saw Councilwoman Sue Leloy was here, right, earlier. So welcome and thank you for being here. And without further ado, I would like to, of course, introduce, she doesn't need no further introduction, of course, our very best moderator of the Big Island, Ms. Sherry Bracken.
Thank you so much for being here, because it's really important that we get an opportunity to hear from the mayor and his council cabinet members about matters finance, because we're the ones as citizens who pay for the expenses of this county. Now, the way the budget process works is that in March, the mayor introduces the preliminary budget, which is really kind of a first cut. It's known not to be the final budget. This year it was around $516 million. And then the actual budget is introduced at the beginning of May, which was around $583 million. The county council discusses it and attempts to do what they want to do with it, but that can be a challenge. And I wanted to mention that because the budget process is really pretty intriguing. And although we may talk a little bit about the budget process this evening, I would recommend that you consider listening to an interview that I did with Councilmember Tim Richards and with Councilmember Sue Leloy that aired on KWXX last Sunday. I put my cards down there over on that desk if you want to take any, but you can always get the Sunday interviews at kwxx.com. Somebody told me they thought I had retired, but I have not retired. I just moved to a different radio station. So I'm still there. But the budget process is really important because the council, although they attempt to make modifications to the budget, are a little bit hamstrung in doing that. So what we're going to hear about tonight from the mayor and his team is what the issues are that the county is facing. As you all know, we had a big lava flow last summer, and that removed around 700 dwellings from the county property tax rolls. So we're dealing with a reduction in revenues there. We're also dealing with a lot of increased expenses, and that's part of what we're going to be hearing about tonight. As Jane Clement mentioned, the format tonight is each of these panelists will have an opportunity to talk to us, and then your questions are important. I've had several questions submitted in advance, and there are questions submitted through the West Hawaii Forum Group website. But if you do have questions, just write them down, and if you need cards, Candy will be delighted to come bring them to you. And if you do write down questions, please write in big letters, because it makes it easier for me. So, also, you'll be able to read about this tomorrow or the next day because Mr. Max Dybel from West Hawaii Today is sitting there in the corner. Hi, Max. Thanks for coming. Hi, Bronze. All right. I'd like to tell you who is on our panel tonight, starting with our esteemed mayor, Harry Kim. He was the mayor from 1999 to 2008 and was elected mayor again and took office in December of 2016. His background, part of his background and still his passion, is Hawaii County Civil Defense, which has proven quite handy since we've had, a lava flow, floods. We've had a lot of things going on in the last years, and we will probably continue to do that. And matter of fact, he will tell you, he goes to civil defense every single day, first thing. That's where he starts his day. So thank you to Mayor Harry Kim for being here. We're going to hear from Deputy Finance Director Steve Hunt. As those of you who were here a little bit earlier when we were doing our sound check heard, Steve actually, where were you born in California? Aha, well, I lived in Atherton, last place I lived in California. So he lived on Kauai, though, for about 45 years, and he was in the finance department with Kauai County, as well as having background in private sector. But he was their director of finance. He also was in real property taxes there, so that's really good for us that we got somebody from Kauai County, and he can share his experience there. So let us welcome Steve Hunt. Obviously, one of our big concerns here in West Hawaii is infrastructure. And we are lucky tonight to have David Yamamoto, who is head of Hawaii County Public Works. He's a registered professional civil engineer with over 25 years of experience as an engineer and program management and professional development. He has served with Hawaii County for over 20 years in various jobs, and he also was an environmental engineer with the State Department of Health. Thank you, David Yamamoto, for being here. Roxcie Waltjen is head of Hawaii County Parks and Recreation and got her degree from UH-Hilo. Now, she's been with Park and Rec for over 30 years, so has a lot of experience. And last year when we did this forum, we were only 3 weeks into the lava flow, and your department was particularly stressed at managing things like shelters, things that you didn't normally do. Let's welcome Roxcie Waltjen. Brenda Carreira is responsible for Hawaii County Mass Transit. She formerly was operations manager for Roberts Hawaii Tours since 2012. She served as the Kona operations manager for Polynesian Adventures before that, beginning in 2005. Excuse me. Brenda Carreira graduated in 1984 from the William S. Richardson School of Law and worked as a private attorney and in the Hawaii County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. She was in private practice in 1999, but stopped practicing law in 2004. So, let's welcome Brenda. Thank you, Brenda, for being here. Now I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give us their opening statements. We've asked them to try to keep it to about 10 minutes, but we have plenty of time to ask questions of them afterwards. And we'd like to start, as always, with Hawaii County Mayor Harry Kim. Thank you, Mayor Kim, for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this. When she mentioned the disasters, automatically, I think most of us, your mind always automatically drifts to that 3 months. 3 months that all the people of Hawaii have and the world have never seen ever happen on this island before. I don't think the magnitude of it has really even sunk into many people that were affected. I know it hasn't with me. This morning at 6:30, which is try to get there in regards to a briefing with civil defense on training. There was so many things you have to train for in preparation, and the newspaper, I think, forecasted a possibility by National Weather Service an increase on tropical cyclone systems for the Central Pacific Ocean. And while I have you here, I would say what I said at Civil Defense this morning. When it comes to forecasting what will happen of nature's ways, we're babies in the woods. We have general guidelines. When the eruption, we began to stir up in regards to earthquake monitoring. There was no prediction of any kind in regards to what was going to happen as far as magnitude. The number of earthquakes that this island suffered, I hope we'll never see anything like that again. For those of you who live in a volcano area, you know that you were averaging a 5-point plus magnitude at least once a month. you know that during that time you had a 6.9 earthquake, which is, you know, in any measurement, very large. And in every day you would have at least a couple of hundred tremors. And that's what people on the mountainside of Kilauea, Halimau, suffered every day for 3 months. Along with that, the threat of daily exposure to the highest level of sulfur dioxide that was also unprecedented. Now we go to the lower side, which everybody hear about. You know, they suffered earthquakes, they suffered lava flow. I'll give you, so you'll know the difference. When Pu'u'o was erupting, it was averaging roughly 300 to 400 cubic meters per 24-hour day. When this eruption occurred, it was averaging 7 to 9 million cubic yards per day. So you can see the magnitude of that. They're like a rushing river. Outside of that, you had a threat of hydrogen sulfide gas, the threat of sulfur dioxide, and the threat of what we call laze, which is when lava hits the ocean, it creates a hydrochloric acid. All of that was under threat of all of those exposed. Not only in the lower Puna area, but Kau as well, Kona as well. Isn't it great? My sister who lives here said, my goodness, I never knew what clear air was until the eruption stopped. Because it started, as you know, 1983, and now you look at your beautiful sunrise, sunset, and clean air, and that's nature's way. So will I have you know that hurricane season starts June 1st. It goes through November 30th as a general guideline. But also remember the largest tropical cyclones that hit this state occurred in September and November. Eva was in late November. So just use that only as a guideline. In regards to all of that to tonight, first of all, thank you very much for those who sponsor this. And again, thank you for those that come here. Money is always a factor, and I am so proud of the federal government and the state government that we did not have to ask for $1 extra from your money as far as county regular budget, as far as property tax, because the state and the federal government came through from day one, paying for almost everything of our daily expenses. And if you can imagine the daily expenses of just overtime, because it was 24/7, 7 days a week. And to all the agencies of federal, state, county, and private, I'll always have my hat off of tremendous gratitude to help us pull through that very hard time. In regards to the subject at hand tonight on budget, I see some of our council people there, and I've told them that this is our third budget that we're going to be submitting. Second budget we are going to be submitting. But the first budget, I told them, I have a very difficult task of asking you, the council members, to do something that none of us want to do, and that is raise taxes. And we had to do that the first budget year. And I'm glad to say that this year we didn't, but still, as property tax, but we still had to ask you guys to raise in taxes for fuel tax, vehicle weight tax, and the GET tax that you're going to have to pay 0.25% more per goods that you purchase, 0.5%, 0.5% more. And because of that, we did not have to tap any element of the property tax, which we already tapped. Approximately 75% of our income comes from your property taxes. And I am not saying this to say it, but there is a misconception that our property taxes are very high, and I think those of you who are from the mainland or other jurisdictions know that that's not true. But that's not the reason to raise it, and that's not the reason to justify what we have to raise. But that's in reality of what it is as far as the property tax. So it was, but still with that, we should never depend on one source of revenue for most of our income. So when the state gave us that opportunity of the GET, we grabbed it. And I have to credit the council because they had to step towards the plate in regards to, because they're the one that faced the public on the taxes we had to raise. And it is of that this year's budget, I think, is a welcome budget. Treasurer and Public Works, Finance will give a wrap-up, and Roxcie and Parks and Recreation will give you a rundown of some of the programs. We have major problems that we are addressing now, and because of the GET tax increase, which will give us on a full year, I would say approximately $50 million more per year. And the law says that should be spent in transportation and nothing else, or related things, but we will work with that to see how we can make sure that the money is spent the best way possible. I'm going to just mention minor things because the budget departments will carry the major things as for their budget. But Brenda was hired by me in an interview. I consider ourselves extremely lucky to get her. That department needed help badly. I'm sure some of you read about it in the paper. The bus system, conditions of the bus, everything was at probably the lowest level that you could imagine. And this is when you bring in someone to address those things with no monies, it's almost mission impossible. But I'll say it openly here, and Brenda may contradict me, but that's okay. She always does. I feel that within 2 years, we will have a bus system that you will be proud of in regards to where we want to go. And I'll say it again, so Brenda can contradict me if she wants to, but from all our conversations, because of funding, because of personnel, and because of everything, that a computer type of technology, we will have a bus system that people of Hawaii Island who depends on it, or will learn to depend on it, will be very, very happy with. In regards to Public Works, I think a lot of you know the condition of roads. They were given another assignment just recently. They will do a total review of the striping and the street lights on the island of Hawaii, because we allowed it to degrade to levels of almost dangerous and even irresponsibility for some areas because of poor visibility. And that plan was submitted to me just last week, and they will address it. And I say again, within 2 years, because of funding and because of the emphasis on that, you will be very noticeably a difference in your lighting system, striping system throughout the island of Hawaii. In regards to parks, we had a survey taken down once, not recently. Police and fire. Police was asked, what % of your daily routine operations of patrolment are taken up by problems caused by a homeless or those who are squatters, to give it a different type of people, homeless that are there not by choice but because of hardship, and squatters who choose that lifestyle. And I was really surprised when the chief of police said, you know, it sometimes 60, sometimes 70, sometimes more than that is responding to problems caused that involves the homeless or the squatters. And that's, you think about it, that's tremendous. The same question was asked of parks who do daily routine cleanup that most of us don't even notice. Same question was asked, what % of your workers' daily cleanup is related to because of squatters and homeless? And their percentage was closer to 80. You know, and that's, to me, that's unimaginable, but even, my goodness, what about the rest of the jobs? I am really happy to say that in this afternoon's meeting with Yamamoto, that they met with some people on Village 9. Yeah, everything is going good in regards to our projected planning, and hopefully we'll have, you know, temporary shelters made and some of it completed before this fiscal year. Because I think, you know, we started in the Old Kona Airport, but what good is a program of removing people when you don't have programs to remove them too? Especially now when, and I don't mean today, but in the past few years, the growing number of percentage of homeless were those of emotional and psychological problems. And as you know, the state government, Department of Health, because of fiscal and other decisions, removed almost 100% of those programs. Working with the state and working with the private sector especially, hopefully we'll get this really addressed, and hopefully within a year you will see, besides temporary shelters or short-term, long-term shelters, to start to be developed here in Kona. The Village 9 is located above the Civic Center. The state gave us 5 acres, which we asked for to establish the programs there. All of this takes time. All of this takes money. And fortunately, I think the money issue is not as bad as it was in the past. And for those of you who supported the GET, realize that 0.5% equates to approximately $50 million a year that will obviously help us in all of our programs. I don't want to sound like we're passing the buck or anything, but some of these problems, were developed over time. None of these problems, let's take an easy one like the homeless, none of it develops overnight. And it will be more than overnight to address it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hunt, now our focus tonight is budget, and I understand are you going to come up here or stay up there?
I can probably come up there.
Whatever you want to do. But Steve Hunt is the Deputy Director of Finance, and the Finance Director usually is able to give us, and I presume you will, an overview of the entire budget to give us a good sense of what the county hopes to achieve with a $583 million budget, where the money is coming from, where's it going? The microphone is right up there, and the clicker is right up there. So, Deanna Sacco is the finance director, and she's excellent, and I'm pleased to say, as I said, that she was able to get a deputy with good background in finance. So, Steve Hunt, thank you so much.
Thank you. So I can just go over the process of what we do at finance during the budget. There you go. So it obviously starts at the top. We get the direction from the mayor as to what his vision of the budget is going to be. Where the needs need to be addressed, and then our job, of course, is to figure out what we can afford of those portions of the vision. This year definitely was another challenging year to get everything we wanted. Departments come to finance with a extended wish list. Obviously, they have statutes that need to be met. You can't, avoid having the necessary positions and/or funding to do the things that are mandated. And then you have things that you would like to accomplish. Part of the vision and goals of each department definitely is to perform efficiently. But again, we have to look at whether we have the resources to do that. So we get a long laundry list, I guess, of first what mandated things might be new that we have to finance. Then we get what are priorities from the department, and they list in order what those priorities are. And then they come in with supplemental requests saying, boy, if we could just find a little bit more money, we could do these things. And so the departments come to us, and we evaluate those and make our recommendations again to the mayor to make the ultimate call as to what will go into the budget. So this year's budget is up approximately $65.8 million. Of that increase, $30.8 million is mandated. And when I say mandated, these are uncontrollable expenditure increases from the prior fiscal year, and they're related to contracts that we have with our employees, not expanding. I'll get into the expansion of the employees, but these are prior to adding any employees to the base. We have collective bargaining contracts that we have to honor. Some are current contracts that are just into the next year. Others were provisioning monies that we're estimating what that impact will be to the forthcoming budget. We also got hit starting in fiscal year 15 with Act 268, which is required to fund our post-employment benefits for health. So as the retirees come out, the state has mandated that we cover their payments for their health, and it varies depending on when they started work and what they have earned. You get vested at a certain period in time, and people who were in an older program had much better benefits. They included family and then husband, wife. and how it's only the employee that's covered for current employees. But again, we have to fund those post-employment benefits, and the schedule was ramped up, kind of back-end loaded, and that topped out in fiscal 19. So we absorbed first the increase. Next, we got hit in fiscal 19 with Act 17, and this addresses the underfunded pensions. So there was a plan that the state came together, and it's not a trust fund for the county, but rather a collective pool for all government employees that participate in the employee retirement system. Statewide, we have roughly about $13.4 billion in unfunded liability for the pension. They do an allocation of that, and they estimate that Hawaii County's employees represent about a $610 million unfunded liability to that pension. And as far as the unfunded portion on the health insurance, it's about $400 million. So we're a little over $1 billion in unfunded amounts for pension and fringe. So again, state mandate says you must fund, and they started ramping up the funding. This year we got a 5 percentage point, not 5%, but 5 percentage point increase, going from 31% contribution for police and fire to a 36%, which is actually about 16% increase that now we have to fund. So again, doesn't come with a funding source, just comes with a mandate, you need to do this. So when I say we have these uncontrollable expenses, these are things that we have to cover regardless because it's state mandated, and that represents, when you include the debt service increase of about 3.6, that represents $30.8 million of this $65 million increase to the budget. So I just want to get that out there, that a lot of this is not by decision. Now, when we added the general excise tax initially at a 0.25% for a full year, and then we added the additional quarter to make it a half, we only get the half for starting in January, so we only get a half year. So although the mayor did say $50 million, that's what it will be when we get the full year at a 0.5%. But for this year, we're estimating about $32 million in revenue that will come in for the GET. And those are very restricted uses. Those uses are for transportation, mass transit, as well as roads. There have been projects in the past related to debt service and bonds that we've taken out specific to highway projects and mass transit, that we are able to transfer that debt to the GE fund to cover those projects because they are transportation related. That freed up some money, about $7.6 million, that we're able to use for this year's budget. So let me go forward now. So again, the proposed budget, the services that are included in this are police services, fire, highway, streets, parks, solid waste, sewer, mass transit. This year new, we have short-term vacation rental enforcement. So there's revenue about estimated at about $845,000 that will be coming in for enforcement. And then the housing and community development. This pie chart sort of shows how the distribution by the draws to the different areas. Again, you can kind of see the fringe now at 23% of the overall budget. It's definitely growing, and we're feeling the pains. As I spoke earlier, the mandated, if you take the increase to salary and wages, 9.2, our post-employment health benefits, $5 million increase, and then our retirement contribution, $12.9 million increase. Now, we're going to see one more level of increase for that retirement contribution, that 12.9. Rough estimate is about another $10 million next year when we have to put 41% of people's salaries aside for the retirement. Again, for police and fire, and I believe it hits 24%, which is another 3 percentage points up for regular employees. So next year will be our last big year of growth in terms of amount we have to put aside for these retirement benefits. And then we're on a plan, I believe in 2037, we will be coming off the post-employment health benefits. And then in 2043, we will hopefully at that point be fully funded for our retirement. And again, it's a long time out, but eventually those higher contributions will come down. Again, as I mentioned, $32 million in the general excise tax fund. about $845,000 for the vacation rental enforcement. The provisions for compensation adjustments, again, these are ballpark estimates, what we anticipate based on collective bargaining contracts that we've recently gone through. We put aside monies to hopefully cover what will come out from our collective bargaining. We still have some units that have not been ratified yet and some that have not even started the negotiations, so they potentially could be retroactive back to July 1st if we don't have that in place before the budget starts.
Steve, just an interruption. These are monies that are going out, right?
These are monies.
Except that the GE tax is coming in.
Correct. GE tax is coming in and going out, so it'll be in the budget. So
and then the
revenue source and expenditures. Both.
Okay, and the short-term vacation rental enforcement fund, is that coming in or going out?
That is coming in. I
From?
don't, and they
From
haven't.
what?
Okay, so right now the short-term vacation rental enforcement fund is coming in from registration of short-term vacation rentals. So you have both ones that are in permitted areas, resort areas, and you have other ones that are in grandfathered areas, which would be your residential outside the, the areas that are resort. Everyone comes in for a one-time registration to get on the books. It's a $500 registration. Annual renewal fees will be for those that are in non-conforming use permit areas, which would be outside the resort area, and I believe it's $250 going forward. Part of that registration fee is for compliance itself. There will be people that maybe you're continuing to operate in ag lands or areas that don't have permits, so the staff, part of this money will fund staff positions, and I'll get into the positions that we've added or into the budget later, but that again is for funding the enforcement effort positions, and eventually probably going to be involved in contested case hearings, because once you get a cease and desist, the owners may not necessarily agree, and they may end up in contested case hearings, in which case that can be costly as well too. So. But that's the funding mechanism to fund that specific, and I believe it was Bill 108 was the
Just
bill?
in general, I just want to make sure everybody understands when
Sure.
you have a slide that mixes income and
Income and
outgo.
expenditures, yes. Yeah. And for the most part, the income coming in will also be shown as expenditures too. So this is very hard to read, but essentially this is a breakdown year by year, fiscal year, showing what the uncontrollable expenditures have done, and this is measuring from fiscal 14, the year before, to get the change, but I've demonstrated 15 through 20. So you can see the budget, 131.42 million increase over fiscal 14 is the cumulative effect of that. And if you look at the total budget being up 189.54%, that's a 69% of the budget increase is related specifically to our uncontrollables. It's a little bit higher even on the general fund. About 87% of our increase to the general fund monies that are coming in, which are not special purpose dollars that can be used only for that task. So the general fund, it actually even pays a little bit more of that load to carry the obligations. So again, the general fund, the revenue sources for the general fund, the primary driver on this is taxes, your real property taxes. I believe that's $330.7 million this year. The other tax being the public service tax, about $8.84 million. So together the tax portion of the general fund is about 77% coming from those two taxes. Transient accommodation tax, this is a very, very sore subject for me. I have fought and fought and fought. When I was at County of Kauai, I was actually on the task force that went to the state to try to fight this, and they basically left us capped. And I think, I'll show you a slide later that kind of shows the trend in TAT, which has grown substantially. The reason that I think we're seeing all these fees and tax changes here locally is essentially because we're no longer getting our proportionate share of it. It's been capped. So the impact has grown, but I guess it's no longer worth fighting that fight anymore. The state has made up its mind. And they've been very good partners otherwise in terms of helping out with grant monies this year and dealing with disasters. So we're getting money from them in other ways. It's just not necessarily helping the budget all the time. Fund balance, so this year, just so you know how fund balance is done here, this is actually an estimate of the lapse in the current fiscal year. So We're in fiscal 19. It ends June 30th. To the best of our ability, our accountants are sort of crunching numbers saying which contracts still need to be executed, which expenditures we can't avoid. You know, we're trying to save as much of that fund as we can, but at the same time, people are saying, yeah, I put that in the budget for a reason, and I didn't know if I could spend it down because I was uncertain about what my budget was going to be like and, you know, what expenditures I might have that were hidden surprises. So you'll start to see some spend down towards the end of the year. To the best of our ability at finance, we try to control that so we can preserve that fund balance. Because if we overestimate fund balance going into next year's budget, we don't have the cover. You need the cover.
This is leftover money.
Fund balance
Okay,
is...
we don't have all day to explain everything, so maybe you can truncate a little and just make sure we know what.
Yeah.
So is fund balance
Fund
leftover
balance
money?
is lapsed funds.
Leftover money.
Leftover money.
Okay, good.
What we're estimating will occur that hasn't occurred yet.
Okay,
Okay.
but we need to not use terms that people don't understand.
Sure. Understand.
Please.
Okay, so again, a big portion of our budget comes from fund balance, about 32 million. Federal grants, it's up actually about 3.1 million from the current fiscal 19. We're receiving roughly about $78.6 million in federal grants. And I won't go into the smaller details, but we have other miscellaneous fees, if you will. So again, in the big picture, it's really the taxes. Property taxes for general fund drives this county's budget, as it does for almost every other county. Kauai was even higher. I think it was 82%. Okay. So again, revenue sources. I think we covered some of these already, so I won't go into it again. A lot of these, again, are special fund, though. That's all I wanted to emphasize, that they can't be supplanted or used elsewise. You can't take golf course monies and push them into general fund to cover a debt. And the big one, of course, is obviously we get 32 million in general excise tax monies coming estimated. We can't just use that for anything. They're very specific. Here's my TAT slide. Again, you can see we're going to be over 600 million received statewide TAT. We're still getting only 19.2. General excise, here's the surcharge. So again, as I mentioned, about $7.6 million was carved out to cover debt service that general fund had been covering. This is really important because this is essentially what helped us fund the new positions that the mayor has proposed and departments have proposed as well.
So the GE tax that we're expecting to take in this year of 32 million, is that roughly that?
Yes.
Okay, you're saying that's being used to add people to the payroll?
It's indirectly, yes. So we were able to, the general fund had been paying for the debt service on highway projects, for the new mass transit building, for other bond issuances that are specifically related to transportation. We essentially took $7.6 million of that out and said, we got GE to pay for that now, they should pay for their own since that was the specific purpose. So in order to do that, we then recouped the general fund monies that had been paying that expense as available to cover some of the other needs that are out there. Okay. And again, some small revenues, about $800,000 in registration and about $45,000 in enforcement fines. And this is how they anticipate spending it, primarily for salary and wages. I believe the budget included 7 new positions for planning that this fund will cover for enforcement. And the rest will be equipment and software. They're looking at a vacation rental detector, I guess, software that will find these vacation rentals that may not be registering.
Steve, just for those who can't really see that chart very well,
yes.
The yellow is what?
The yellow is S&W, stands for salary and wages, so
okay,
that's
and the blue?
what's being budgeted. The blue is OCE, which is basically your operations.
Okay,
so
and then the orange?
The orange is equipment needs.
Okay, and then the green?
And then about $15,000 for other.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I did a comparison. Again, this is comparing the current budget, fiscal 19, because all the counties are still in the process of working on their budget, so we can't really do a comparison of 20 yet. But this sort of just looks at, on a per capita basis, Hawaii counties at about $2,557 per capita. Maui County is the highest at $3,579. And then Kauai County at $3,032, and then City and County at $2,664. And then if you do it by square miles, obviously we have such a big island that our budgetary cost per square mile is much, much lower than other
So
counties.
you're saying that 2557 is the amount of the budget that is spent per person who lives in the county?
That is correct. That is the
Okay.
entire county budget for fiscal 19 divided by the population to get
Okay.
your per capita budget spending.
Thank you.
And before I get to my last slide, I did want to cover just briefly the positions. Now, you've all probably heard recently in the paper, 93 positions were added. Of that, 35 of the positions are fund-specific. And when I say that, there were increases to the sewer fees, and they're covering 10 of the positions, so it's estimated at about $1.8 million. And these are, again, new proposed plants and positions that will be required by state to make sure that they're compliant with wastewater. There are 2 positions that are covered in solid waste, and these, again, their tipping fees were increased. I think there's about $500,000 additional revenue estimated for the fiscal 20. Mass transit, 4 positions were added, and that's in concert with their master plan, and they, again, have $32 million, not all for mass transit, but there's $32 million in GET, and there's enough to cover those positions. Planning is adding, or proposed to add 7 positions, and this is for the TVR enforcement, and they have the funding from the registration fees. And then there are 12 positions in the fire department, primarily ocean safety, and this comes from grant monies. So it's not necessarily county monies, but it's certainly county personnel that will be added to fulfill that. So 35 of the 93 essentially are fund-specific and have funding sources. The ones that were more challenging were the ones to fill that are needs-specific. And again, I think no one can argue that there's not greater need for police presence, and not only that, not only just for the community, but for the police officers themselves for safety purposes. So 44 positions were added in police. 3 positions were added.
It's 44 and not 42?
44 total, yes. So two were added since the original submission, and these are primarily to help with, I wouldn't call it enforcement of homelessness, but getting homeless into intake centers and making patrols and sweeps and trying to take back our community and make it a little more livable for our residents. So those 2 will be rotating in together between both the east and west side. So they're not assigned, they'll be covering both. 3 positions in the vehicle registration licensing. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to look at the lines and know we need them there. 2 of them will be on this side, 1 in Waimea, 1 in here in the West Hawaii Civic Center. The other one being in Pahoa. 2 positions for Department of Public Works, and these are plan examiners. I don't know how many submit building permits, but another problem area. And again, these are, I would say, complaint driven as well. These are positions that we recognize from you and feedback that we need to up the service. So. And finally, Parks and Rec, again, the cleanliness of our parks, making sure we're getting on it, addressing issues with cleaning up after homeless, things like that. So 6 positions are in Parks and Rec to help that. And then aside from those, what I would call complaint-driven, I would say there are 3 departmental needs. 1 is in IT to help keep our network up, our infrastructure. Really helps, indirectly helps you by not having our system go down so we can service you. 1 in HR. And 1 in the prosecutor's office to help potentially reduce the overtime, and as well as an anticipated ramp up with the new police presence. There are likely going to be more cases. So those cover the positions that were added in this year's budget. So with that, I probably took way more than 10 minutes. I'm sorry.
23 minutes and 30 seconds. That's okay.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Steve. However, it was very important to get a good overview of the budget from Steve. The rest of the people will be held absolutely to 10 minutes. And next, because really Steve's covered some of what you're actually going to be talking about. So David Yamamoto, please share with us what Public Works is planning, what the budget impact. 10 minutes only, please. I would really appreciate it because we do have several questions from the audience. Scott, do you want me to give him the other mic? No, these good.
Public Works' budget is $57,803,000, $778 to be exact, currently at least. And of this, I'm going to go over some of the key areas that we are working on to improve. The first being the building permit process. We're getting ready to introduce a permit pre-application checklist to encourage completion of all prerequisites required to prepare complete applications. We're also moving from the current 3 permit, building, electrical, plumbing permit, to a 1 permit, 1 building permit application. Introducing a plan review fee to encourage prudent plan preparation and permit applications. Introducing a new permit software, InterGov, to provide better access to data bases, permit tracking, and transparency of the review process, as well as the inspection process. And we're also introducing an electronic plan review, which we are hoping will reduce the time of reviewing your permit applications. Roadway maintenance is another area that we're working on to improve and to reflect the additional fuel and GET tax. We're going to be ramping up paving, marking, striping, and signage. We're also broadening our pavement preservation methods to extend pavement longevity between resurfacing. And we're also digitizing our roadway asset inventory and condition to prioritize and budget optimize repair maintenance work. Regarding streets and signal lights, we are embarked on a street light replacement and enhancement to improve visibility. We are also piloting a smart street light program where has features like dimming, activation, and failure notification. We also have worked on a traffic signal optimization and detector upgrade. And one of the projects that we are getting ready to start this summer would be the optimization of the traffic signals in the Queen K and Kuakini corridors. One of the challenges, we've been hearing about trying to synchronize the traffic signals, but one of the challenges we have in being able to implement that type of technology is not all the sites that we have signals have fiber optic service, which would be required to be able to remotely control these traffic signals and adjust the synchronization. We're also negotiating with DOT, a joint County of Hawaii DOT traffic signal control and
You're
coordination.
talking about State Department of Transportation?
Yes.
People need to know the difference between Public Works and state, so you're saying you're negotiating with the state, right?
Yes, correct. State highways, we are negotiating with them to create a joint traffic control and coordination center.
That's not something you do now? I thought that the county handled the traffic signals for all the state highways here.
Correct, we do currently, but I believe this July or August, they're going to be taking their traffic signal and street lighting program back. So that's where we are trying to create this joint program regarding the signaling, meaning that when they adjust their signals, we have to be able to adjust ours as well to sync into their patterns and keep the traffic flowing. So briefly, I'll go into some of the projects that we are working on. We just started the LEE Drive culvert replacement. We also will be, after school ends, starting on the Holoaloa Elementary Safe Route to School. We'll be broadening the shoulder so they have a safer route to walk to school. We're also in the process of acquiring the land from Camp School for the Onea Lane extension. And so road resurfacing projects that we have.
Could you explain where that is for people who may not know where Onea Lane is?
Okay, Onea Lane is right there by, what is that shopping center? Right, Coconut Grove. That it'll intersect between Kailua-Kona Highway and Ali'i Drive. It'll connect, I guess, close to Wailua Road and basically go up through that one property to connect to Kailua-Kona Highway. So moving on to some road resurfacing projects that we have in the pipeline for this fiscal year or next fiscal year is we'll be resurfacing Henry Street from Queen K to Kailua-Kona. We're doing a small section on Mamalohoa, basically fronting Tashima's Aina Akina Place, Kaimalu Place, Keopuka Road Place, Kiloa Road, and Upper Napopo Road. And that's some of the highlights we're working on this coming fiscal year.
Okay, the Department of Parks and Recreation strives to improve the quality of life of our island residents and visitors by providing a full range of recreational areas, facilities, programs, and services throughout the island. Just so that you know, we have 9 different divisions. Our department currently has a total of 494 employees, of which 141 are in West Hawaii. Our department manages 321 facilities island-wide, and 76 of those facilities are in West Hawaii. For fiscal year 2019 to 2020, we are requesting a total of $29,973,662. Approximately 61% of that is for salaries and wages, of which 12% is with grants from the federal government and state, and 27% is left. We are asking to fund 6 new positions. We are asking for a clerk 3 in our main office. We are asking for an account clerk in our maintenance department, for 3 park caretaker positions, 1 for Puna, 1 for Kona, and 1 for Waimea, and a recreation technician, 2 for the Puna area. In addition to that, we are asking to fund 2 unfunded positions in Kona, which is another park caretaker, and a recreation technician 2, also in the Kona area. We are also asking to change 3 of the lifeguard half-time positions to full-time. And we have 1 for North-South Kona, 1 lifeguard in Puna, and 1 lifeguard in North Hilo. In addition to all of that, we need some replacement vehicles. We need a half-ton extra cab utility truck for the power moors so that we can transport our power moors around the island and get it to the right places so we can get the lawns mowed in the correct time. We need a utility van for the plumbers. Currently, we do not have a van that they can make it all the way from Hilo to Kona. So sometimes an emergency job will have to wait 1 or 2 days before we can actually borrow a truck from someone. And we also need a crew cab, F-250 utility truck, and that will also be with the South Kohala side for the power moors. We are where we're at right now. In addition to that, I'm sure everyone is really interested in what projects are ongoing and what we're working on. I'm happy to report about the Kona Aquatic Center. The contract has been awarded to Aquatic Solutions Hawaii, and their bid came in at $243,550. Which is below what we had estimated, so that was very good news. And our timeline is 125 days from the notice to proceed when we get that word from the procurement officer and purchasing. So we are crossing our fingers and moving it forward. In addition,
when do you expect to get the okay to move forward?
I've been calling them every week, so.
Why does it take them so long if you've got a bid that's below your estimate and you've got it and it was the winning bid?
It's the process. They have to get the documents signed and it has to go through corp counsel and everything. But they have the procurement procedure was followed in accordance with how it should be. But in addition to that, we have streamlined the process. And we were working very closely with Rebecca in moving things forward. And we also are working very closely with Tim Richards in moving, because he has a pool in Kohala also that is going to need some repairs. Meanwhile, while we have the pool closed, we are doing all the other repairs that needs to be done. We're doing a thorough cleaning of everything. Anything that needs to be replaced, we have gone in, did an assessment, and we're going to be trying to get everything in tip-top shape so that when we reopen this pool, it'll be ready to go, and we won't have any problems.
Mr. Civic, I think, talked to you about, can you possibly clean the men's room?
Exactly, and I wrote all that down, and that'll be the first thing that I'm going to talk to them about checking out all that dirt that is on the floor and the walls, the soap scum. I'm going to make sure that that gets done.
One has to wonder why
It wasn't done.
bad.
Well, and that's a little question that I'll be asking. In addition to that, when we asked our park caretakers, how much time do you devote to working with the homeless population and that situation? And they said about 70% of their times. Now, some of our park caretakers are doing like 6 to 7 parks a day, which means that if they have an issue with one park at the beginning of the day, by the time they're not going to make it to the last park. So it is a juggling kind of situation. Whenever we get a report, immediately we are on it. We are down there. We try to get it cleaned up. And when we have people that go in there and they destroy things or do graffiti or do vandalism, we have to cover it up right away. And of course, safety is our number one concern. In addition to that, when homeless people, or just squatters are out there and they are leaving pipes and needles in the fields, we need to make sure that those fields are looked at on a daily basis. Now, when our park caretakers go in there in the morning and the kids come in the afternoon, those parks are open. So we have worked with recreation and with all the different athletic teams and sports organizations, and we have reminded them that whenever they take the kids onto the field, if they could ask their parents to walk the field just to be on the safe side. We are working very closely with the mayor's office, with Hope Services, with all the church organizations. We are working with the prosecutor's office and the judiciary so that people who do vandalize our parks or are squatting in our parks, we are implementing like a 5-prong approach where all of us are all getting together to see if we can help these individuals, whether it be placing them or referring them to an agency where they can get the required services that they need, or whether it be, if they are breaking the law, getting the charges put in a way where it will not be thrown out. So we are working collaboratively with all these different agencies to make sure that our approach and that the programs and the effects will be seen in our parks. Needless to say, I've been notified by different organizations that we have people that show up at our bus terminal in Hilo that have just gotten off the plane with their luggage, and they have been given a one-way ticket to Hawaii, to the Big Island, and they don't have a place to live. And so we have made contact with organizations and officials on that side, on the different states, to tell them that we have enough. Thank you.
To stop. Okay,
Yes.
well, Hope Services tells us that the number or the percentage of people who come here like that is pretty low. Would you agree with their assessment or not? Because they say it's like less than 20%, which means that 80% of the people are here
Okay,
for a long, long time.
I guess that would be what data they're looking at. The data that I'm talking about is when I get a call from an agency that is down at the Mohale Park, and they tell me, well, we've been feeding people here, and we normally have 66 people that show up for this free food. And today we had 13 new people, and they were down there with their luggage, and they just got off the plane. Well, then, I get a little concerned. I don't know how accurate or.
When you say luggage, so these are people who can afford luggage? In which
they-
case they should get a hotel.
Actually, they just got off the plane, and they were there with their suitcase, 2 suitcases or a backpack, and that's it. And they were told that when they come here, all they need to do is register at social services, and they will be given a place to stay, and they'll be given free food.
And who is telling them this specifically?
Their counselors.
Who specifically? What state?
Human Services. Well, we've had people from Minnesota, and I guess it's more of the East Coast because it's really cold, and if they're out in the cold, there's a good chance that they're not going to make it.
Okay, well, so you're saying Minnesota.
We've received from Michigan, we've received from Minnesota, we've received Chicago. Those are the 3 basic ones.
So Mayor Kim, is your administration contacting these states and telling them to stop that practice?
No. But we're going to have to work with programs in regards to how to handle this. I don't have any real accurate data except it's happening, and this is something we have to address. But be aware Hawaii is doing the same thing too, not Hawaii Island, but Oahu. But theirs is I think, much better that they do not send them back there unless there is someone there that will verify responsibility for them upon arrival. So I think our program is good because there are homeless people here that did not intend to be homeless and just found out how difficult it is to live here.
Okay. Anything else, Roxcie?
I have a whole list of things that we're working on. Do you want me to go through that, or we'll
Very
wait for
briefly.
that? Okay.
If it's a West Hawaii project,
And
give
that's
us
all I have.
30 seconds on what you're working on.
Okay, you've all heard about, I've talked about the swimming pool. Mahu-Kona Park, I've had a lot of interests and concerns regarding the park. We did close up the pavilion because it is unsafe. Right now, we are trying to identify funding for planning and design and construction. So once we identify some funding, we will move forward on that. The Waikoloa Dog Park, right now, we are selecting and contracting, of land surveyor is in progress right now. Kahalua Beach Park, we are continuing to work with the Kohala Center to identify the funding necessary to master plan for the park for the necessary improvements that need to be done. La'aloa Beach Park, we are pending the closure of the stakeholders' comment period, which will end on May 31st, and completion of the design will be submitted to the State Preservation Society, and then we wait for them to give us comments on when we can get started.
That particular park, it's been in that state of nothing for at least 10 years, wouldn't you say?
Actually, it's been, the last people to work on it was Mayor Kim's administration.
Okay,
and
so-
nothing's been done since. So, yeah, we've been moving this forward since 3 days after I got appointed.
Okay.
Anything
else briefly?
Yeah, pretty much, we've met with different community organizations and athletic organizations, pickleball people and
Briefly.
futsal. And so what we've done is we've developed partnerships with them and is working to restore some of our facilities so that we can get it going. And partnerships is the way to go, and we try to keep it going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Carreira, Tell us about mass transit. And, you know, it's delightful to hear that there's $32 million in GE tax that has to go really basically to the two of you. I'm not clear, Steve, why you complain about it going to them, because it sounds like they have enough needs to use up that $32 million. So, Ms. Carreira, tell us your plan for your portion.
Basically, I call this the E-squared project. I need bodies and I need buses. That's as blunt as I can be. We had 34 vehicles auctioned off, very old ones today. I have 19 buses waiting for parts in the bus procurement system. I have 11 buses on the road right now. We have 33 routes. Okay. I thank Mayor Kim for, allowing me to come here. Everybody has a purpose, and my purpose is to make sure we can, as the mayor said, enhance our community, give you safe, reliable transportation. I can't do that without the money. I really can't. Thank you so much for the GET. What I can tell you is with the GET that we need to spend by the end of this current fiscal year and the federal funding, we had the full funding, I was able to do specs for 23 vehicles.
How much of that $32 million from GE tax goes to mass transit?
I would need, for the next, so this is just this current, I would need to ask Steve as to how much it is that we're getting next year. So with the GET for next year is more buses. The thing about buses, and I've told people before, I've been in the business 12, 13 years, and it's, and mostly in Kona. I've lived here for 11 years here in Kona. We cannot just order a bus and it comes in 3 months. What they've been telling us is 12 months, 2 years. I'm trying to get people to get it here faster. 6 months, 9 months. That's what I'm looking for. I will continue, we will continue, our team, our team at Mass Transit and our team here with the county, which I collaborate with these wonderful people all the time. What I brought here and what I build are relationships. And that's what we're trying to do with building relationships with bus companies. I have a lot of people calling us saying, what do you need? What can we do to help you? But we have a bus procurement system. You can't just do sole source. It'd be nice to have 55 vehicles all the same. That's not going to happen. We have to be fair. We have to get the bid out. Takes a long time to do that for whatever reason. That's the system. Then we have to wait for the buses to be built. So what does that tell you? What I need to tell you is in the meantime, these 11 or 30 buses are dinosaurs. I have buses that are 24 years old. The last time we bought a bus was 2015. It takes money to catch up. That's reality. Hate to be blunt, but that's the truth. And every day, that's the main thing, how we're going to get the buses. It's through the wonderful Federal Transit Administration that the State Department of Transportation Planning administers those funds. Wonderful thing I will tell you is this month it came out, FTA has $423 million. Just came out this month. I got to get the application in next month. We're definitely going to go for that. Wherever it is, we will search and hunt and apply. That to me is my job, so we can make safe, reliable. The only way to do that is to get new buses, and it takes money. The GET, thank you so much. That's the only way with the federal funds that we were able to put in specs. That's the only way we're going to survive, because my job is that. And thank you so much for the beautiful base yard. We have been blessed. Blessed. Awesome. Okay. So the the bodies. Bodies, administrative assistant. We don't have an accountant. We don't have an HR. We have the regular department HR doing our work. We need to get our own. An account clerk to do payroll, to help with the federal reporting, with the grants, a third person, because we have our cash collection procedures that are doing very well. I'm also asking we have an automotive mechanic too. That's supposed to be our working mechanic. okay? He hasn't been able to do that because he's doing all the paperwork and the bus assignments. Everybody is covering for everybody else in our agency. I have to stop that. We gotta be able to do what our job is supposed to. What is the last one? So garage supervisor, that's the person that's gonna take over the paperwork, help us with our federal grants and our reports, be there visible, so Cody can go back to work. And then we have 2. I'm asking for a second supervisor because of the length of hours that they work, that I may increase, haven't yet. But we got buses on the road till 1 o'clock in the morning, you know. We get calls for 24 hours, but that's the job. I'm good with that, okay? But if I don't have the resources, then I gotta cancel routes. And I'm bound and determined not to do that. We finagle, okay? So what's gonna be new? What projects have been here? We don't have a base yard here. It's in the master plan, and that's wonderful, you know, down the road. I don't have an office here at West Hawaii Civic Center, although I'm sure Barbara will let me borrow, and we'll look into that. Okay, so I don't have a base yard, I don't have mechanics here. So what happens? The buses go down in Kona, North Kohala, Ka'u, and it takes my mechanics a long time to come over here. And in the meantime, the people are stuck on the bus or on the road, or we have to cancel. That's not good. That's not enhancing the lives of the community. So in this new contract, which is going to be awarded soon, okay, I decided, with our staff, we're going to have the contractor, whoever it is, Roberts or Polyad, whoever wins the contract, they will do Kona, North Kohala, Ka'u, because they're here. They can get to you faster. We're going to take too long. Hilo will take the rest of the routes. But what I would say also in the new contract, all the minibuses, all the buses, and the big buses, all will have working ADA lifts, all will have bike racks. And we're trying to get some kind of system with cameras. And so we took that into consideration. Also part of the vehicles that we're ordering, still doing the bid, just give it to finance, about purchasing our paratransit vans. We have contracts right now. Kona has paratransits, and I think Hilo. We're ordering 8 paratransit vans. Some of them will come to Kona, because Kona uses it more. I cannot give you the stats, but to add more here. So what it is rather than having a contractor go buy their own van, because right now not all of them have lifts, we're going to supply it. It's going to be fully equipped with ADA so that we can help the people. And so it's taken a while for me to get the plans out, but we had to sit down and think in the future too, where we need these. So that's what we're doing. And again, it's B squared, it's buses and bodies. I'm not asking for anything that we don't need because, no, that's not honorable. That's not how I was raised. We really need it. Thank you.
Ms. Carreira, I understand that we were supposed to get a couple of buses from Oahu that were supposed to be hydrogen fuel buses. We have a hydrogen fuel station at the Natural Energy Lab. What's the status of those? Okay,
there's one at the University of Hawaii, the hydrogen. It's in Honolulu already. We have a fueling facility, not us, the UH has one in Kona. So we're still trying to figure out that infrastructure, but with that particular, it has ADA lift and everything, can be fueled 10 minutes. Once we do the exchange or the gifting over, our plan is to have that 25-seater minibus do the Waimea shuttle, one of those, the shuttles.
I thought there were supposed to be 2 buses, no?
Okay, there's 2 that is owned, actually is part of the federal government. We're in the process of trying to work, get those vehicles, but it's going to take a month. So it doesn't belong to us yet. We're in the process of, doing that, and we don't have the infrastructure if it comes to Hilo, so I have to work on that. So I'm very little careful. We are working with the federal government and the state, and we're hoping at really great things. Mayor Kim was very instrumental in talking to the Hawaii Volcano National Park superintendent, and we thank him for that. you know, he's
Okay.
been, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your plans. It's pretty clear that you all just go into the budget process saying, well, I had 100 million last year, I want 105 million this year, or whatever it is. There's been a lot of suggestions that the county look at zero-based budgeting. Hawaii Island Chamber wrote a really impassioned editorial actually last year about this. And, you know, with our county in sort of desperate budget straits, why have you not tried a new approach, zero-based budgeting, or at least looking at what the departments need rather than just adding on?
Yeah, zero-based budgeting, for those that are not familiar with the concept, is that you start with the premise that you're going to justify every dollar of your budget that you're submitting. So even though you've provided specific services or programs in the year or years past, you go in to justify why you need to continue doing that. So that's what I believe the zero-based budgeting is. The state legislators started that this year. Sylvia Luke did that on the House side, bringing all the state budget to do the same thing, saying, okay, you know, justify where you need to go and your positions. They do start with existing staff. So they don't look at cutting positions or unfunding warm bodies at that point, but they certainly do look at vacant positions that have not been filled over a period of time as a means of potentially saving. Now, I don't disagree that there is some merit to zero-based budgeting. I know with positions themselves, it can be challenging because often it's not necessarily you don't have the need, it's you cannot find the position. The private sector often pays more on the front end. County, if you're willing to work the long end, you get the benefits with the defined benefits rather than defined contributions. So there is something on the back end, but often we're competing against the private sector, which pays more. So
I guess what I'm asking is not that. I'm not asking you about how much people get paid. I'm asking you, why doesn't the county take a look at the functions it's doing, the functions it should do, making sure they match up? Because this just seems like a never-ending process. You know, we're on a target. Mayor Kim, when you were mayor before, the budget doubled during your 8 years. It went from 175 million to 403 million. Now, we're on target, we're 2 years in, and if we keep going like this and Mayor Kim is mayor for a total of 8 years, we're going to again double the budget to almost $1 billion. So is there not a way to kind of take a different look, a different approach to the budget?
You can, but you also have to take into consideration the constraints. So a lot of it is charter driven. You know, so if you wanted to really, on Kauai, I'll base my experience on Kauai because when things were really bad there, we had to look at, you know, potentially cutting agencies. So they weren't chartered departments, but agencies. And this, you know, probably the hardest felt ones, transportation's an agency, housing's an agency, elderly affairs, or here would be aging's an agency. So really a lot of the social services are not chartered departments on Kauai, and those are very difficult things to cut. Other ones we cannot cut without changing the charter.
I'm not asking about cutting, I'm asking about redoing the budget process. Is there consideration of taking a completely different look? This is a question that's been submitted by many, many people, and I know the council is looking at that. So I'm not asking about what you would cut. I'm asking about taking a bottoms-up approach.
Right, well,
and Mayor Kim
maybe I'm not
now
understanding your question fully, but I was trying to lay the framework that certain things cannot be cut because they are required by charter. So you can't say, we're going to get rid of finance. It's a chartered department. You can't say we're going to get rid of police. It's a chartered department. Now, you can look at synergies where maybe there's overlap in services, and I think to some degree we do that already. And again, it's the departments that come to us and the mayor with their needs that get evaluated. So we just don't start from zero. We start from the positions and the functions we're currently servicing. And then we look at, can we use technology to augment or streamline or create efficiencies without adding positions? That's always something that we do look at. But it's more of a hybrid, I guess. It's not zero-based, it's what we have to work with and where we need to go and what funds we have to make it happen. And again, obligations are not going to go away even if we do get rid of some staffing. The requirements for people who have already retired don't go away. They still have to be funded, and they're still, so is the debt service. Those are still obligations that grow. And again, this year, without any change to the budget, it was growing $30.8 million status quo.
I believe Mayor Kim wants to weigh in.
I'm going to answer it very simply. Zero-based budget basically means start from scratch every year and justify every dollar you expend, except for some automatic base or debt payment or those things. And I think all of you can see how difficult that is, but the purpose of it is a good one. What it does, when I read about it, on that, is simply this: have every department who's in charge justify every dollar you spend instead of repetition over and over without thinking. A lot of it is simple. Let's take an easy one to zero base to explain it and not take countless hours to do, and say you have 450 police officers. 400 police officers are needed for this distribution, and that's it. You don't have to zero base that. But the other kind of expenses, we're supposed to have each department evaluate their budget every year to make sure it is necessary and should be continued. And I have my problems with that because of this, and I know some of you will disagree, because we do that. Technically, we do that every year. I've said this to the public, city, county council, and others in community meetings. Every single dollar that we spend of your money is justified because it goes through a process. That process is from our review, the administrative review, council review, public hearings, etc. And I think every department, the councilmen know that anyone who requests specific in regards to how money is spent, it's easily provided to you. Now, is zero-based budgeting necessary to make it better? Maybe, I don't know. I'll tell you how much confidence I have on your government. I challenge any of you to ask any department to justify every dollar they spend. And someone has to make a justification of why these things are important. But imagine the difficulty of zero-based budgeting. Who will evaluate that request? From what I see in the system, it's the county council. They will evaluate it. I think, is Tim here? Tim knows how difficult it is because that's what he said the first year he came in regards to the difficulty of looking at the budget in a limited time. When it was introduced as a budget, when the process of budgeting starts in its simplest form of non-zero based, December. We start this year budgeting, which will end in June, in December. And before you turn around, and when the fiscal year starts July 1st, you have to start the whole process again in the following December. I think zero-based budgeting is good for governments or units that really should have an evaluation of their expenditure that this serves the public. The vast majority of our expenditures are mandated by charter. Because to say police protection, fire protection, this and that. And I really am telling you, I am very confident that any one of you can ask any department, my office, for $1 by $1, and we'll give it to you. And while I'm on the mic, what I wanted to tell you in regards to good news. So I'll just take this opportunity. Today was such a beautiful day for me, even now. Some of you have the responsibility of Mauna Kea, and as I told the ex-governor Waihe today and others for the past few weeks, I consider us of resolving this problem of Mauna Kea the most important assignment I've ever had in my entire life of working. And everyone who talked to me about it know that. And today was such a milestone for me because certain individuals, which I will not name now because I don't have their permission, committed to help me follow through on the mission that we have. And I ask of you in the future, if you have an opportunity when there are public meetings, please attend. Obviously, this budgeting is extremely important. The problems in regards to the homeless reflects our society. This is our mission on the homeless. All the police and all the departments know this. There are two categories of homeless out there. One is a true homeless who, due to hard times, cannot find a place to stay, of family and individuals. The other, and we will do everything we can within the resources we have to help them. I'm very proud of what's going to happen up here at the Civic Center, and I think you'll be proud of that too. But the other part in regards to the squatters, they choose that lifestyle by choice. We've established a policy statement that our beautiful island of people's private property, government property, is not your private dump. It is not your private camping area, nor is it your private toilet. Two of the positions that when Finance asked me if there are any real special project you have that you would like to implement. And I said, more police officers. But they already asked for and got. I wanted special unit people. And we found the money for it. I wanted 4 to start, but I'm getting 2. They will be island-wide officers, and they will help us enforce this element on the homeless and referral, etc.
Well, Mayor, there are no vagrancy laws in our county or in our state. There's nothing illegal about being homeless. So the question is, how are you going to get people to go to Village 9, which is not near downtown? They may not want to. And then how do you take people who are homeless, who are literally disrupting the lives of people who are good citizens, let me say, how do you deal with that? Because there's no law preventing that.
Number one, there are laws of no camping, no loitering, no littering, etc.
We have no loitering laws?
Well, of course we do.
Okay.
You can't loiter in front of someone's private property in downtown.
Okay.
The Corporation Council, if you call them, are saying to review in totality what new laws we must have to do what we need to do. I've talked to people in LA of government, law enforcement, and if you have relatives in LA, they made a mistake, I think, that the Wahoo made, and they're trying, and we're all trying. We have an advantage of our problem. I think it's still not in a situation where it is not something we can address, and we will address it. But even small things of signs are being planned. She knows that Parks was asked to make a very decorative, non-offensive signs in regards to what is allowed and not allowed. The 2 police officers will be, their sole duty will be to work with all the departments on that, and this includes the state government as well. But I think it is time that we set forth openly what kind of community we want, and I will repeat, that will be our basis of where we go. This is not your private dump, not your private toilet, and not your private camping area. There are no camping signs all over all places that are allowed, and that's a law that will be enforced. There are laws on littering, and as best as possible we'll try to enforce that. But I'm sure some of us are guilty without thinking about that. And I'm not worried about the small type of rubbish, because as Roxcie said, we had to implement a policy for safety and ask all of the soccer coaches and other parents to walk the field before your kids go out there, because we found needles out there. This is our home, and in some ways we have to get stronger in enforcement of that. And I say of yours, where there are no laws, then we must make it.
Thank you so much, because I think that's something, the homeless problem is affecting tourism. We've seen that in letters to the editor. it's affecting local people who don't want to go certain places. And, I mentioned I was just in California. In Oakland, Home Depot apparently is considering pulling out completely from Oakland and Emeryville because the homeless people are camping around their property. And I can't imagine us losing businesses. Now, let me ask you a question about personnel. I know that out of the 44 police officers that are talked about, most of them are going to the Puna and Ka'u districts, which are districts that have traditionally been quite underserved. So, Steve, do you happen to know, or Mayor, how many are actually designated for West Hawaii? I think there's a couple of supervisors, but I'm not sure. Plus this.
All of
homeless
this,
officer.
every department, I think it's foolish for a mayor to, or anybody for that matter, to know the detailed information you need to make decision on where personnel and resources
Well,
are
Steve
allocated.
must know.
Pardon?
Steve must know how many, because I think that the police
No,
chief
but
told me.
I really want to answer that
Oh, okay.
before Steve. Each department, police, fire, or parks or public works, are told, you know your department. You are the one to identify where personnel are needed and where they are to go if you get them. And the police identified, I think, primarily priority in Puna.
Forums for many, many years, and that is, why doesn't Park and Rec charge non-residents for use of the county pool? We're just getting into the time where we're going to have tons of iron people here. Charge for non-residents to go to the zoo, charge for non-residents to a little higher fee to play golf, and also raise the resident fee for golf, because $15 a round for golf is great at the Hilo Muni Golf Course, but so would 20 or 21 or 25.
All of those things are right now on the table, and we are discussing increases or charging for exactly what you spoke of.
Okay, that's
And
a question
once
we asked
we-
3 or 4 years ago, so
Once
where
we-
is it now?
Well, I can't speak for 3 or 4 years ago, but I
Okay.
can speak for now, for the past 2 years. We are looking at all of those things, all of those items that you talked about with the golf and the swimming pool and the zoo are all on the table. In fact, each of those divisions have submitted price increases to me. Once we decide where we're going to go with that, we will have to take it to the public for public comment. And that's how the procedure goes. But yes, those things are all on the table right now.
I'd like to answer that because it's very important. I speak to the audience here. I love the Hawaii tax system. I know there's pros and cons and all of it. She missed one element. They have to send it to me for approval first. But our system here is different from any state in the United States of America for different things. For example, education system. There's only one district for the whole state of Hawaii. There's no other state like that. Why was that formed? It was formed because they felt that regardless of how small a jurisdiction you come from, unlike many, many jurisdictions in the mainland, your education budget is based on how rich your county is. And our forefathers decided that should not be in Hawaii. The teacher that teaches in Honau should be just as qualified as that teaches in Kailua or wherever in the United States, state of Hawaii. On user fees, I have real strong feelings on that. I first went to the mainland, and I'm sure some of you went to the mainland. Like my son teaches in Oregon.
Mayor, I just want to make it clear, the questions that have been asked have to do with charging non-residents.
That's what I'm talking about.
Not local
man.
residents.
That's what I'm going to lead to.
Okay.
I think you from the mainland know that anytime you use any kind of municipal facility, a lot of times there are user fees. And there's always been discussed here, and that's what we're talking about. Except she's adding one more element. And do we charge visitors or non-residents a collection based on their residency here? And that even is a question of mine. I love the fact that our families, visitors as well, can go to our parks, swimming pools, zoos, and it's free. If the maintenance of these things were so outrageous that we have to charge you so much money for your property tax that those certain things have to be reconsidered, and will be, especially things like golf, where it's a minimum amount and you can ask for ID and all of those kind of things. But I ask all of you in this room, please weigh, the plus and minuses of user fees, especially identified in regards to non-resident. Right now, and I'm not a very big fan of the resort industry. I think those of you who know me know I've said that. It's not our lifestyle to sell away our lands just for bringing in tourists. But the fact is, right now, the resort industry pays nearly 40% of our entire tax system of property tax. There's always a discussion how much and how do we make this more welcoming or non-welcoming. I asked it, and there will be public discussion. I know that. We've tried user fees in regards to even the transfer station consideration, how difficult that is, who goes there. I would not like to see user fees in our lifestyle in places like our parks, our swimming pool, our zoos, and those things. But that's personal. When it comes down for it to bring it towards the public and the council will determine. I'm just telling you my personal opinion.
Well, I think that people are looking really at just the need of the county to somehow produce revenue, and the fact that you can still keep things free for local residents. But we understand your viewpoint, and as you said, that will be addressed.
On that, Sherry, we went to every community in this island to explain why we were pushing for the GET. It was plain by all statistics a minimum of 25% of the money collected from GET comes from the tourists because of the restaurants and hotels and buying things here. On property tax, the resorts pay close to 40% of the total. I'm not backing them up. I'm just a reality of how much they are contributing at this point. I'm putting forth also this, which is, truthfully, I believe it. Our property taxes, which is over 75% of our total revenues, and now hopefully in time will be less because we have the GET. He explained the frustration of the failure of the state in being fair on a TAT. But look at your property tax truthfully and where you come from, wherever that is. And you will see the services provided to you by police, fire, and everything else in your parks, I think, are very low in comparison to anywhere in the United States. But don't compare the amount, compare the service that you get from the money you give. And I proudly say, ask any department for how every dollar is spent, and we'll provide it to you.
Steve, do you have the number of police personnel who would be assigned to West Hawaii?
Yes. From the revised budget, we have 1 police officer, 2 in the Kona district, 1 sergeant in the Kona district, 2 sergeants in North Kohala, and 2 sergeants in South Kohala.
Thank you very much. By the way, one of the things, as you know, our Hawaii County Police Department is accredited through a national accreditation organization, Kailua, whatever is the accrediting organization. And one of the issues that they've had with our police department is the lack of supervisory personnel. So they have to add the supervisory personnel to continue to be accredited, which is actually a good thing. And then,
thank you for knowing that. No, I mean it. I really mean that. Thank you.
well, accreditation is important. I mean, we've been lucky, or not just lucky, but, on the mainland, they've had some issues with police officers and inappropriate behavior, and we really have not had that here. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but accreditation helps. Now, of the 51 employees that are asked to be added above the police department, how much is being added to our long-term obligation for pension and health care in the future?
I'm sorry, the 51 beyond the police?
Yeah.
Oh,
since as I mentioned, it appears that nobody really objects to adding police.
Okay.
That's a good thing. So do
Okay.
you need more time to figure that out?
Yeah, it's not a figure I'm going to have anyway, so I mean, we don't calculate, we would have to look at
Okay,
the
for one person.
individual salaries. We
Okay,
would
for
have to
one
look at what
person, if I'm going to
portion.
make $65,000 a year, how much is being added to our unfunded liability?
22% will be going to your ERS, employee retirement system for pension.
Which would be what? You're the finance guy. Give us, because
Yeah, so
you all,
if your gross salary is 65,000, you'll be putting an additional 14,300 towards your future retirement. You're
so when
putting-
you talk about the 600 million plus 400 million every year?
No,
that we
that's
are-
the total outstanding unfunded
Okay,
amounts.
so that's the
This
total.
chips
So
away
each
at
employee
funding that.
adds
Correct.
14,000 to that roughly,
If,
or 15,000?
well, the employer, we're putting our portion. There
That's
there
what
is-
I'm asking. If
correct.
you hire me, how much are we adding to the county
Correct.
obligation?
So if-
So tell me what it is times 50, and then we'll know the answer to the question.
Well, if 65,000 is a good paying job.
Or pick a number. I don't care what the number is. Meanwhile, David Yamamoto, how are we doing on extending Anikeahokulole Highway out to Kaimanani, which will be a benefit for not only commuters, but for Palamanui Community College? What's the cost? What's the timeline?
We're in the process of doing the archaeological inventory. Once that is done, and if we get a clean sweep, we can start the design or know how to design to avoid the archaeological sites and or what we have to do to treat the sites.
Last year, when we asked the same question, I believe the answer was the same. We're in the process of doing the archaeological inventory. So what has happened in the past year? Has it been worked on, or it's still being worked on?
Well, we actually began, the consultant actually started the work in the field. And so I believe that process will take to the end of part of this year, and then from there we'll,
It'll take till when?
the end of part of this year to
Okay.
complete. And then from there, we'll know how we need to design the roadway and what we might have to mitigate and or avoid. And hopefully it doesn't derail the project, because like Ali Highway got derailed because of the burial council.
One of the successes of the Anikeahokulole Highway that has already been built is close collaboration with the descendants of the area, and that started from day one, and that's why that project got done so quickly. So are you going to do something like that to mitigate any problems?
Yeah, we intend to be proactive in being able to go forward with the project.
And have you already contacted the people who have
Well,
connection to the area?
That'll be part of the process that we go through in identifying what's out there and who we need to collaborate with.
Okay, so you said toward the end of part of this year, so would that be like November, December?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so let's say it's December to give you a little month or two more. And then how long after that would the project actually be able to start, do you think? And what do you think the cost would be?
I believe the cost was estimated at $50 million. There's going to be the design process that we still have to go through, as well as securing the funding through the various funding sources that we attempt to try and get a project of this size done, which will probably heavily rely on federal highway to qualify this as a project.
May I comment on that? I'm stating it openly. I'm going to brag about it. Anikeahokulole was started in the year 2005, 2006. The complete design, land condemnation, and everything was completed in 2008. We were so lucky that, during the recession, as we speak, where Obama stimulus funds made available to the state of Hawaii approximately $34 million on a shovel ready. The state, because of this community development plan of Kona, placing that highway as priority 1, the state DOT gave 100% of that $34 million to Kona, and that's why you have that highway.
And Senator Daniel Kailua-Kona. You have to give him some credit. He's the one who advocated for the money to come.
Yeah, well, tell you the truth, you give everything credit to that man. I can't go stick until tomorrow morning. I mean it, you know, even small thing that people don't even think about, the water spigots that out there. It was his money. The element of the Hawaii Volcano Observatory facility is because of him out there. Everybody knows about Saddle Road, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just trying to say the importance of a community development plan, community of Kona, that put on priority of that highway as number 1 for the west side of the island. Without that, I can almost assure you that it would not have been placed number 1 priority. The whole state is told we're going to give everything to Kona and get real Oahu-centric, never happened. In regards to us, in completion of that question, the completion of that highway is priority. You know, obviously it is funds, and naturally there is no stimulus funds available. But we will put that out. They're working on it, and we'll keep you abreast of where we go and how we go and when we get there. But it is priority to complete that highway all the way through.
Thank you. A question. Makale Fire Station does not have an ambulance, and as people should know, that is a state, not a county issue to approve that. But is there a way, since the state has not seen fit to give Makale an ambulance, that the county would consider stepping up and doing that? Is that even possible?
As I stated before, I let the fire department, you know, identify what is priority. And I'll tell you what my priority is on fire department is the Honoka Fire Station, which is the oldest fire station in the island of Hawaii, where people have to stand and eat literally, and vehicles have to be parked outside. And Makale was priority, you know, and even the land there was not the land originally given. That was donated later by different owners. But Makale, because you knew equipment is prioritized by the fire department, so I don't know where to put that as far as the whole department, because of the number of runs by the emergency vehicles. My goodness, I think they must average 200,000 miles per vehicle, and that's always a problem. But I do not interfere with that. Like the fire, like the police, they are told, you know the needs, you identify the priority. And right now I can't tell you where they put that. But almost every station, new vehicles are needed.
And that's always a state thing, right?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
state funding.
And you know, I'm so proud of this island. If some of you, as near as old I am, we had a series called Emergency. Believe it or not, when the county was trying to make a determination, where do we go on that? Because they could have said, no, we're fire people or rescue people. But they made a decision way back then that they'll develop an emergency response system of EMS, MICT, second to none. And that's why I don't care where you live on the island. You know, you can call 911 and a qualified MICT will respond. And we have to raise your property tax so I can buy new vehicles. Don't throw stones. I was just trying to make it light.
Steve, do you have the answer yet?
Well, I have an answer. I don't know if it's the answer. I was confused by 51 because 93 less 44 is actually 49, so that's why I was confused. But I understand your questioning, and if you use the 65,000, the contributions in addition to the salaries at 65 times 49, which is about 3.185 million, you would have to contribute based on 22% contribution of non-police fire personnel, about 700,000. If you were to use probably more realistic gross salary of about 45,000, you're looking at about 2.2 million in salary and about 485,000 in contributions.
I would say this, please remember, all of those benefits, the county government has no say in those collective bargaining issues.
Is there a way that county government can begin to step in and exert some influence over that process? As you know, county employees are treated very generously when it comes to immediate vacation and benefits and long-term benefits. And, you know, not everybody enjoys that. There's a lot of hard workers out here who do not get automatic raises, who do not get the kind of benefits we're talking about. And most private corporations have had to reduce the kind of benefits they give. Can the county change the system in any way, or is the county powerless?
Well, it's not powerless because you have 1 out of 5 votes. Each county has 4 votes and the governor has 4 votes, right? And so all he has to do is get 1 county vote and he has 3. And that's how, I'll tell you this, and when we first came in this time, the governor, all the unions were identified that county government of Hawaii will reject any proposal for even a $1 raise because we don't have the money. And that's the first year we had to raise the property tax across the board, approximately 6%. Now, directly to her question, yes, you can pull out, I think, through a legal process, and I'm not familiar with what all legal process is to pull out. I don't know if that's wise. I wish there was a better way. But if you create a system where Maui, Oahu, or someplace else pays more than Hawaii County or benefits more, you lose. I know what she said is true. I'm a county worker for, God bless, almost 45 years. And I know how lucky I am in having a steady job, although I guarantee you I earn my pay. But the element is some departments cannot get people. Go look at how many people apply for the lousiest job I consider of police. It's a problem recruiting qualified people, regardless of what we pay them. And there are some lower level pay, you know. I remember Roxcie coming to office and nearly in tears because she worked so hard to get the Waimea new bathroom fixed. And it wasn't even there a week, and or was it a day? Somebody went in and vandalized and smashed all the brand new toiletries that was in there. Imagine if you were the worker that I just said 60 to 80% of your time every morning, every day is cleaning up somebody else's crap. You know, those kind of jobs are not that easy to fill, even with the benefits. So there are plus and minuses. I'm just saying our responsibility is to make sure we know the whole picture before we decide on the mission or we go in that direction. Personally, on certain things like police, I don't see why the state should have a vote. You know, they have only a few police officers. Why should they have, 4 votes? And other things like that, we should evaluate it. But so far, with not much success, because I think it takes a majority vote, but I'm not too sure on that also. But there are advantages and disadvantages to that.
One quick question for Ms. Carreira before we conclude. There were a lot of people watching the budget hearings in April with the county council, and there was, I have to say, shock and disappointment to hear that County Mass Transit had not filed its appropriate federal forms for 3 years, thus jeopardizing federal funding, not just for the county, but possibly for the state. And we understand that there's around $6.9 million in withheld federal funds as anticipated revenue for this upcoming budget year. So the question is are we getting that money, and what are you doing to make sure that County Mass Transit has more fiscal responsibility and accountability?
Go ahead, Brenda. This is your chance now.
Okay, first of all, as far as the reports, 2013 is when money was given to Kauai.
Could you speak a little teeny?
I'm sorry, 2013, the monies that were supposed to come to the Big Island were redistributed to Kauai because of issues with the Mass Transit Agency. We never said that we never filed the reports. What I'm saying is there may have been some problems there. I don't know because I wasn't there. All I know is I found out that we didn't get funding there, and then with 14 and 15, they gave it, we got the funds later. Okay, so let's make that really clear. Second, as far as the funding, I'm getting the funds this year, we're getting funds next year, and we're waiting to get the grant. Well, actually, we have to do an application, so we're good there. What am I doing? Gathering staff, asking finance with the other staff members to get that entire year, July 2017 till June 2018, looking over all the paperwork and getting the revenue miles. That's what we had to do, and we're still currently compiling it. We're working with the Department of Transportation. We came up with a form so that we can gather that information and figuring out procedures as to who's going to do what. Because now that I knew about it, we're taking care of it. Like I said, we're fixing it. It's not an easy fix. When I learned about it, we're taking care of it, and we're creating new procedures to make sure that that doesn't happen again and that we're accurate. It takes time, but we had to pull people from all over. We're talking about an agency that just had 3 people for so many years. Now we have 12, but we've increased routes. So constantly I'm working with the Department of Transportation, Ryan Fujii. He sends me emails to say when things are due. I make sure everything has to come through me. So I review everything, but my staff helps. They help.
So are we getting the federal funding that we anticipated getting then?
Yes.
In short, there will be no loss of funds to the county government of Hawaii. This is accountability work in regards to the number of passengers, which they account for how much federal money you get. And there's so many things that are taxed on her that she has to catch up. If you can imagine going in place and different things you have to learn before you can know what to catch up on. I will tell you 100% confidence of the DOT head came over here, worked with us. We put special staff on finance, the mayor's office, to review all our records of past to see what system we can make. They gave us verbal commitment to the council as well as us that there will be no loss of federal funds.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight and sharing all your mana'o. And I'd like to urge everybody to take advantage of contacting these department heads and the mayor if you want to talk about any of the things that they have talked about tonight, because I understand that your doors are always open. Is that true? Do I see nodding? David, did you nod? Okay. Oh, you didn't nod enthusiastically. You're kind of nodding reluctantly. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. And now back to Jane Clement.
And how about a big round of applause for our wonderful moderator, Ms. Sherry Bracken. And thank you again for staying and sticking around, and thank you to Mayor and his cabinet for being here and for sharing their plans and priorities for our county. And I forgot to mention earlier that this is recorded and will be later broadcast. Will be broadcasted later on Naleo TV, and it will be also be posted on our website, westhawaiiforum.org. So please do tell your friends and family who were not able to be here tonight that it will be available at a later date. Thank you very much and have a good night.
This is the representation of the kind of quality of speakers that we have here at West Hawaii Forum. And we put these monthly forums on to provide as much civic involvement and education on issues that are important to you, the community. We are one island, we are one community.